Donna Adelson, well, she's in a lot of hot water, being accused of conspiring to murder her former son-in-law, Dan Markle, after her son, Charlie, convicted and spending the rest of his life in prison for it. What's going to happen next? Is there more shoes to drop against the Adelsons of conspiring to kill a father who just simply wanted to be a dad to his kids? And why did she hire the defense attorney that Charlie had? Charlie's in prison for the rest of his life. That didn't work out all so well. Joining me to discuss, Bob Motta, defense attorney, host of the podcast Defense Diaries. That's my first question for you. Why go with the same guy that this didn't work out so well for Charlie on?
It's a really good question. And I don't know the answer. The only thing that I can think of is, and he's second chair, so she's got another
Hmm.
attorney. She brought him on as a second chair. And the only thing that I can think of that makes any sense to me is just his intricate knowledge of the case. I mean, there's one thing for certain is that the guy knows the case forward and backwards. If you look at the defense that he put on, love it or hate it, it was creative and it was a defense and it was sellable. I mean, I watched 90% of that trial and I mean, he made the pieces fit. Now, whether or not he was able to sell it to a jury, which obviously he was not, you know, the story fit. It just did. It's like I gave him a lot of credit for coming up with, and theoretically it could have been Charlie, who knows, who came up with this concept of the double extortion thing. But I mean, in terms of like you've got these really, really bad facts, with these meetings and phone calls and jokes about TV repairmen and money exchanging hands and
Hmm.
and he just kind of made it fit in a plausible story. Now, does plausible mean that it was plausible enough to override the fact that Dan Markel is dead,
Hmm.
murdered, in front of his home? No, obviously it wasn't. But I mean, I think that she probably appreciated the fact that number one, like I said, he knows the case forward and
Yeah.
backward. He's not like her new attorney isn't going to know the case like he does. It's like bringing in like a quarterback coach
Yeah. It's like a
for a young
consultant.
quarterback. Yeah, just kind of like a quarterback
Hmm.
whisperer. Like the guy will be able to kind of guide him through everything without this guy having to start from scratch and learning the case from ground zero. It'll be like, oh, you're looking for a witness statement here, boom, but you know what I mean. So just and they have the money. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like they still have the money to be able to hire counsel, and she can get a couple of them. And if he's going to help him navigate the lead counsel navigate through all the discovery and help him out, because it's going to be a different case. Like
Yeah.
people like this is not going to be a rerun of Charlie's case because there's different dynamics. They're going to have to prove different things with respect to Donna. It's like when Katie, the ex, the girlfriend, who is, the one who basically set up the hit with,
Hmm.
Tato and the other fella, those that situation was like when she says she gets the bag of money, like they
Hmm.
had all that testimony on there, like, oh, I got the bag of money and it was wet. Like, what do you mean it's wet? Well, it's like it feels like they actually like washed the money,
Yeah.
like in order to get their fingerprints off of it. It's like I'm like, well, that's not really how you launder money. They took it very literally.
Yes.
But like in her testimony was that Charlie never kept money like that in the house,
Hmm.
which was implying that Donna was the source of the cash.
Yeah.
Like that's where this thing's going to revolve around. And then of course you have Donna and Charlie on these phone calls after he's convicted, where it's like they call that guilt of consciousness in the business. All
Yeah.
right. So legal game, when you're talking about like, oh, I'm gonna either kill myself or I'm gonna go to, either Vietnam or or the Saudi Arabia,
Goodbye.
wherever,
Yeah. Yeah.
they're not gonna be able to extradite me. And it's like that type of stuff. and it's admissible.
Yeah.
Like, just
E-
so people understand, it's absolutely admissible, and it's absolute proof of indicia of guilt, so they're gonna use it, and it's powerful.
Is there any angle in this where they would have kept Charlie's attorney on in a way to help protect other members of the family, like specifically Wendy? The angle I'm going at here is, if something was discussed in the previous case, uh, you know, attorney-client conversation that does talk about, and this is just theoretical, that does talk about Wendy having some sort of involvement just with the attorney, and then if he's not, on retainer, if he's not part of that council anymore, is there any risk that that information could come out if he were to be subpoenaed or something of that nature? If they do go into investigating more of the family, if he's, he's the attorney for the family right now, he doesn't have to go do that. But if he weren't, would that open him up to, if something like that did happen, talking?
I don't think so. I mean, he doesn't have attorney-client privilege with Wendy,
That's the thing. Yeah.
but yeah, but in terms of his conversations that he would have with Donna, that is privileged,
Yeah.
and, like, the only time that we can break privilege as attorneys, there's very few circumstances under which we could break privilege, and that is if I'm made aware of my client committing a crime in the future.
Okay.
Like, if I'm made aware that my client is, like, either in the commission of or going to be committing in the very near future a crime, I have an obligation to let law enforcement know. Like, that is that's a circumstance where I can break privilege. Otherwise, I don't know that there's a circumstance where they'd be able to
Yeah.
get either any attorney to be able to talk about anything that Donna has told them in confidence
Whether
with
they're
regard whether it's
in,
about Wendy or
yeah.
anything else,
Yeah, and whether or
It's
not they're in actively representing that family or not, those conversations happened while they were, so that can't necessarily come out, even though it's not about Charlie, it's not about Donna, it's a conversation about another person that that attorney is not
but
representing.
it's
Yeah.
too intertwined.
It's a
It's like
weird, yeah,
we can't sit there and say it's not about
yeah,
Charlie or Donna
true,
because
true.
it is ultimately. If they're implying that it was Wendy that was the mastermind and that they were working at the behest of her, it's the same thing, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's it's still privileged. It's all going to be privileged because it's so ancestrally intertwined with you can't separate the parts because th're all kind of dependent on one another. It's all the same crime.
Where do
You
you
know what I
see where do you see this going with Donna now that obviously she's been charged? Charlie's in jail for the rest of his life unless there's some sort of appeal or something that happens that changes that, which I probably never will. But is this something where Donna's going to throw Charlie under the bus because why not at this point for her own freedom?
It's hard to know. If she admits to having knowledge of the plan, she then becomes an accomplice.
Yeah.
I mean, if I know that you're gonna commit a crime, if I know that you're going to have somebody killed, I have an obligation to let law enforcement know.
Hmm.
Like, I have an obligation to do something. And I'm talking about as an individual. Like,
Yeah.
if she then becomes complicit, if she says, okay, well, yeah, I knew,
If she
you
knew,
know,
but what if it was more of a, he says things, I thought it was a joke. I didn't think that this was actually happening. Kind of going down that road of, did I hear about it? I was
yeah, but
shocked when this happened. I
that
just wonder.
that's what the story is now, that it was all a
True.
joke. Them's just words. Them's just jokes. I like, yeah, like, well, come on, it's a hilarious joke. Oh, well, I
Yeah.
realize now it's not a hilarious joke. I mean, it's like they're gonna get her.
Yeah.
Like, and they're gonna get her more from what she did after Charlie was convicted. Those phone calls are,
Yeah.
man, I mean, she's done. If I'm her attorneys, I'm desperately trying to convince her we're not beating this at trial.
Hmm.
Okay. You said way too much in those phone calls. Like, Donna, here, I'm gonna sit you down here. in the cell, and I'm gonna put these tapes on, and we're gonna listen to these recordings that you made, knowing that every single phone call, every jail phone call, except for privileged phone calls between attorneys and clients, they're all recorded.
Mhm.
It's like it's so like me trying to understand how she would have done that, just being like, "Whoa," like her and Charlie. It's like it's beyond idiotic. So I'm trying to plead her out. I'm trying to sit here and say, look, we're not beating this at trial. I know that you're elderly. I don't want you spending like any kind of amount of time is basically life in prison for her.
Yeah.
So it's like if I can make out any kind of deal, but like I don't know what the evidence that they have on the front end of it is.
Mhm.
Had she kept quiet after the fact, it would have been a tougher case.
Yeah.
Like, because people are like, I've got a friend who's got a YouTube channel, absolutely convinced that Wendy is, the godfather, or, the dumb Corleone, he calls her, and she's like, that she was the puppet master and that everyone was working at her behest. And, and it's like, that might be true, but I can tell you right now that they don't have the evidence against her. Otherwise, they don't need to wait,
Mhm.
because what's happening right now is if they think that she is the one who really orchestrated this, and I'm sure that Georgia does, the prosecutor, I'm sure in her heart of hearts, she has very little doubt that Wendy is complicit, if not the mastermind behind the whole thing. The problem is, like with every case, is do you have the evidence to get the conviction?
Mhm.
And like there's certainly a lot of things that Wendy did that don't make any sense, that are super sus, that are huge red flags, like driving by, happening. I just happened to drive by right after Dan got shot, right by the street, and it was blocked off, and I was going to get a bottle of booze. Like, I mean, there's things that she did that kind of defy logic
Yeah.
if she's not involved.
Yeah.
But is it enough to get it in front of a jury and get a conviction on it? I mean, prosecutors are in the
Yeah.
business of winning and getting convictions, not going in with shaky cases.
Is that where it's sitting right now for the other family members, for Wendy, and also specifically for Donna's husband as well? I mean, when we listen to some of those phone calls, he's there. He's making his comments in the background, and it's kind of reminds me of Peanuts a little bit. But
Wah, wah,
yeah,
wah,
yeah,
wah,
but
wah,
this
wah,
is
wah.
someone
Yeah.
who I'm guessing knew pretty much everything Donna was doing, if not involved in what Donna was doing in some way, shape, or form. Are they just sitting here waiting right now for the rest of them to hang themselves to be able to bring charges?
Yeah, I feel pretty confident dad's going next.
Yeah.
Like I think they'll go Donna and then dad. Look, they've been married forever.
Mhm.
They tell each other everything. Like that, I mean, in terms of spousal privilege, it certainly exists to an extent, but in terms of did he know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll be able to get him on, being a part of the plan, like he was an active participant, but they certainly can, get him on charges that he was complicit in the fact that he knew,
Yeah.
and that he didn't make any kind of like he's a part of the conspiracy.
Mhm.
Like really, if like no matter what your role is, if you're a part of the conspiracy, and one of the ways, the primary thing that they look at in terms of pulling yourself out of a conspiracy is you go to law enforcement and you let them know this is going down.
Mhm.
That's how you like that's the in the eyes of the law, that's how you get yourself extracted out of a
Sure.
conspiracy. So, I don't know. I mean, ultimately, they want Wendy, I mean, I just don't like I don't know if they'll get there.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like all of us there I don't think that there's a person out there that believes for one moment that Wendy didn't have a part of this.
Mhm.
It's like, if you do, then you have to believe that Donna was always just this overbearing helicopter mom who ran her kids' lives,
Yeah.
to the extent to where, she's like, I'm not letting Dan Markel keep my grandchildren away from, like something like, and she's like Charlie, I want you to take care of this. I'll pay for it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and that Wendy has no clue about it.
Yeah.
Like that's the only way that story works, you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's another weird day. Like when you look at the cases that we follow, man, and it's like fiction has nothing on reality, does
No.
it?
Some of these you couldn't even put into a fictional story. That's why half the time I think they're done in a docu-series type style, because if you were to act them out with actors, it would just be too far-fetched. But
It's
yeah, I
crazy.
know.
It's
We'll
crazy.
have Adelson bingo night on our next show, and we'll see what cards we blocked, or what lines we've blocked off, and we can get blackout and win that big prize.
I'm always looking to win the big prize, brother.
Hey, it's Tony Brueski. If you like the podcast, be sure to like, subscribe, and press that bell so you don't miss any of our updates on the cases we're following for you right here at the Hidden Killers podcast from True Crime Today. And thanks